What was that talk about?
I was just at a discussion group and then the three going to dinner, garden learning.
I'm so pleased today that we have Jane Wood with us. So Jane Wood is what we all want to grow up to be like, right? She worked in Exxon.
All right, listen up, everybody.
All right, and Sue, you're supposed to come up here to be introduced, so get up here.
Okay.
Here, let me, well, you can't do it.
No, I'll just speak into your ear because this is the microphone, right?
All right.
Okay, so Jane is kind of what we all wanted to grow up to be. She worked at Exxon, then she retired, she pursued her interest in nature, she became a master naturalist. She became involved in the Katy Prairie. Your earbud.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, and she also was involved.
You're talking about me, how bad could it be?
Life Outdoorsman, and she's spoken to the Bird Club a number of times, and we've all heard a lot about the Katy Prairie and how important it is, and she is going to share her view from a crane in the Katy Prairie. Now, she brought one of her flock with her, which is Sue Bell, who is also from Exxon, and so we're just so lucky. And if you see the handouts there, you also see that Jane is a history buff. So all the things that we didn't get to do when we were working so hard, she has done them. And so she has a really great talk on Lois and Clark, and I've been advised by many people that we need to get her back. All right, so take it away, Kate.
Thank you so much, Frankie. I appreciate it. Do y'all realize that you're right here on the prairie?
Yes. Yeah.
Katy, yeah, Katy Prairie.
Yeah.
So and a lot of you didn't start here because you were too young to be here when you started. But you got here as quick as you could, and I understand that. So you may not know a lot about the Katy Prairie or the prairie ecosystem in general. And so that's what my story is about today. And I hope you enjoy it. If you have questions, let me know. I'm just excited to get started. What's the kind of bird that's on my screen right here? Sandhill Cranes. That's how I got onto the Katy Prairie. I was with Bernice, and Bernice was leading an AAUW birding trip out to the prairie, and we never got to the Indian Grass Preserve because we saw so many incredible birds that I had never seen in my life on the way out there. And that was in 2012, the year that I retired from Exxon. And I just was blown away and came back many, many times. And it was spectacular to me. And from there I said, I gotta get my Master Naturalist certification, and then I started training other Master Naturalists. And now I support and assist and do outreach work for the Coastal Prairie Conservancy. We used to be called the Katy Prairie Conservancy, and now that we are expanded from 2 counties, which is Waller and Harris, to 9 counties, which goes all the way to the coast, we have become the preeminent experts on how to preserve this land that is around us. And I'm very excited to explain all of that. And to do that, I have lots of multimedia.
I think you have to point it at the computer, maybe?
Pointed.
That's where I was. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about the wintering sandhill cranes. We're going to talk about what is the Katy Prairie, what is the Coastal Prairie Conservancy. That's a nonprofit. And we're going to revisit the cranes, and then we're going to talk about nature's burial. Nature's burial is another word for our conservation cemetery, and it's a very new initiative that we have going on, and I'm really excited about talking about it with you. So in 2022, I went on an unplugged adventure, and by that I mean we were going out at dusk. We didn't have phones or anything. We just had our binoculars and each other. It was darn cold that night, And we started watching the Sandhill Cranes come in. Here's a picture of the Sandhill Cranes. Where were they coming in from? Well, they had been wintering here all winter. Here being up on the Katy Prairie. I'll show you a map of it in a minute. But we had about 2,000 that had come down all the way from Canada from their summer location, and they were making their way down, and they now were spending the winter on the prairie where they could find food and water and protection and familiarity, because they come back to the same place every year. It's just a really cool story. And because we were watching these Sandhill Cranes come in, this is what they were sounding like. A chortle is what I call it. But they are so loud, you would almost feel like the sky is falling. It's such a beautiful sound, and you hear them before you see them coming in. And I was watching all of that occurring, and it was absolutely magical to me. And here is some pictures that I took at that time. Let me see if I can move out of the way a little bit. Here they are in the tall grass. Why are they standing in water? Well, because they have coyotes and fox out there, and the Sandhill Cranes know that if they're going to go after them, they are going to make noise, and they can fly away at that point. So they don't have to worry about disturbance when they're standing in water. And you say, standing in water in the prairie, are you serious? And there's water everywhere in the prairie, and we have been filling it in and putting houses and streets and highways and places for you all to live too. However, we're in the business of bringing that prairie back, and this is how we're going to be doing that. So the sights and sounds that night were magical for me. There were 27 bird species we saw. I'm sure most of you that are birders can name all of these. This is an immature bald eagle, a killdeer, a white-faced ibis. Never seen that before in my life. We've got a short-eared owl here. Never heard or seen that. Magical. I don't know. I had a moment of time where I could die then, and I know that heaven would take me in. And then here is these Sandhill Cranes coming in, and you can see their brothers and sisters sitting down. And this is another picture that I took of that particular magical experience. So the prairie was here before we were. In fact, there's the Akakiso Indians that were in this area. They were even herding buffalo into the deep ravines where the creeks came through, and then they would trap them and kill them for meat. And they were in this area once a year in the wintertime when it was the warmest, and they made their rounds. We're talking about millions of buffalo that came through here. So it's pretty exciting. We also had black bear, we had mustangs, we had longhorn steers, we had those good Atwater prairie chickens, and this is a walking stick. I don't know, the things that you see out there, it's endless, and it kind of boggles your mind. Get kids out on the prairie early on, and you'll have them hooked for life. So this is a picture of the middle of the United States and the extent to which we had prairie lands. And it's a beautiful place. The North American tallgrass prairie map. Of course, we're down here in Texas, if you didn't know that. And I wanted to sing, I like this song the best. Maybe if you all could help me sing it. But most of our, Miriam says, Jane, but it really works, because you all know these songs. Let's try it. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. This is emphasis here. To prairies to the ocean. Okay, that's enough. You guys sound good, but we gotta go on. But I just know that this has been a part of our heritage since the country was born. And if we discount the grasses, we overlook the largest ecosystem in the United States. And I've got a map here that I want to show you, but it's not the one, it's another one. Okay. 1.4 million square miles of prairie in our country in the lower 48. And in our region, in Texas, we have less than 0.1% of it remaining. And so that's what happened was the Coastal Prairie Conservancy, the people out on the prairie, Steve Gast is just one of many landowners out there that said, you know, he talked to landowners and he said, you know, we really have to draw a line and put an easement out there or something so that there will never be development because they could see it coming. I know you see it all around you. The development is not going to stop, but we want them to come around us on the prairie where we've saved a piece of the prairie forever. And I'll throw a number out at you because it's pretty exciting. And I get these good news updates from the office quite a bit. And it says here, we've expanded our trail system to 4 miles over at the Welcome Center. We've got 33,607 acres of protected space that can never, not space, but land, that can never be developed. And I'll talk a little bit more of how we do that in just a second. And it goes on to talk about 13,492 acres of stewarded land, meaning that it's under easement and we pay them a visit every year. And who does it? These are people on our staff. And it's working. It's just working. So here's my map. Here we are. I don't know where Frankie wants me, but I'm gonna dance around here a little bit. You see that gray spot there? And here's I-10. And all of this green here is the Coastal Prairie where you are, just because you're a little bit south of I-10. You're still in the prairie. But there is something called the Katy Prairie that has always been there because the Katy Prairie Conservancy named it. And it said this is where the last remaining prairie in this area is surviving. We need to do something about that. So that's why we started the work in that area. So here's a map of the whole area around Houston. This gray area you see is the developed area in 1990. And over here, you'll see these blue reservoirs, Attucks and Barker reservoirs right across the street from you. When Sue and I were driving down here, I pointed over, you see what that is? That's what let go of a hell of a lot of water a few years ago. That it was holding back that wetlands area. So you know where you are. Now this hashed green line here is the historic limits to the Katy Prairie. It stopped at 610. And but what you can see here is the land. Now, if you fast forward to 2017, you see this green area in focus. That green area is the area that we started with. It's land that we own on the prairie that will never be developed. And it's where you can come visit. It's called the Indian Grass Preserve. And we've opened up a brand new welcome center. Since you guys have been there, we've got air conditioning. We have indoor bathrooms. We've got 4 miles of trails now. We're pretty proud of the work that we've been doing and the investment we've been making in getting it to a place where people can enjoy it. And so what happened to our prairie, this is nothing that is new to you all. The farmers are out there and they plowed the ground. In fact, you probably know that I ran across this thing called Prairies 101, Voices from the Past. And these were written back in the early 1800s. It says, this guy named Romer says, in the entire level plains of Texas, no rock is found. There are not rocks in this area. It's soil and dirt. You don't see rocks until you get past the Brazos River. And that's when the elevation starts to change. It's where the hill country just starts to make its appearance. But here, if you're looking for something and you hit it and it's hard, it's probably concrete. And then he also wrote, imagine a land where there are more birds' nests than stones.
Wow.
If you think about it, the stones weren't here before, so somebody had to bring them in. And, like a kid, hey, let's go play in the mud and find something like that. And a settler would not spend 10 years cutting down and burning trees. On the very day of his arrival, he could put his plow into the ground, which is why people came. So there's the farmers, then the ranchers. Of course, we had Mustangs, we had Longhorns, all thanks to the Spanish coming up from Mexico, or the Spain coming up through the El Camino Real. For now, we've got houses, highways, progress. It's been replaced by a wildlife desert. But I hate getting sad about things, and I can tell you that the prairies are making a comeback. And I'll give you some examples of that in just a few minutes. The Coastal Prairie Conservancy was founded in 1992. It's a nonprofit. That's who I represent today. It's now in a 9-county area, and it is an accredited land trust. What is an accredited land trust? Well, let's talk about this a little bit in a minute. So their mission is to sustain a resilient Texas by preserving coastal prairies, wetlands, farms, and ranches, preserving them to benefit people and wildlife, and the key word there is forever. And when we do put them on the side of the equation where they're never going to be bought by a developer, they're never going to add a house to that particular area, it is preserving, it's our way of preserving the prairie forever. And we're doing that through what this placard talks about. We're doing conservation work. We're doing prescribed burns. We're doing our own disking and cultivating, and we're planting native plants. If you don't know what happened to Memorial Park, it was just that. They took out all the dead trees, and they put back a prairie system with plants and flowers and grasses that will not need a whole lot of love and attention, because they're going to do just fine, because they got their roots in the soil and they say, oh, this feels good. I think I even recognize this. In fact, I'm going over here, Frankie, but I'm coming back. I have a t-shirt on, and it's got grasses on it. You guys don't look at my chest, but the women can look at it. There's more roots below ground than there is grasses and flowers and everything above ground. And
upside down.
okay, good job. All right, that was a test. Very good. I wasn't upside down, it was just this. Okay, but this is extraordinary here. The way when the droughts come, the root systems here are still nurturing, and as soon as the rains come, then these plants can come back up and do what they're supposed to be doing. Also, they're filtering the water that's coming down, which is extremely important, and also they're doing somebody said, okay, they're they're also doing oxygen and replenishment of the ground. So,
They also hold the water back so it doesn't flood into
yes, the other thing that it's doing, thank you, Bernice, is that it is holding the soil in the ground so that it doesn't wash away. If you put water, and it absorbs more moisture. Yeah, y'all want to do this?
And remember, Jane, last time you told us that their roots are about 14 inches compared to 6 to 8.
Right.
So they go so deep down, the water can seep more,
Yes.
and we don't lose all that groundwater.
You do want to do this, don't you?
I listen to you, Jane.
I've never found people that would listen to me. That's why I have to go and talk to so many places. Okay, and then I'm here at the bottom, I'm outreach. I just like to talk to people, and I like to educate, and that's why I'm here. Okay, let me find this. Okay, here's what I wanted to talk about. We have 3 ways of getting land. The first way is Katy Prairie owned lands. We have 13,000 acres plus. Here, these are lands that we targeted to buy because they were contiguous. And this is a great chart of the land that we own up from here. You can walk it around, Susie. All right, I don't have to pay you as much now. Okay, so if you go up to I-10 and go down to the Buc-ee's and one more exit and then turn right and drive for 30 minutes, you will be up at the Indian Grass Preserve, and you will be to where these green lands are. So from here, it's about a 30-minute drive. For me in downtown Houston, about an hour, depending on traffic. But that's where this land is that we have protected. Now, on this side over here, on the Katy Prairie, we also have 5,000 acres of land in easements. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then off of the Katy Prairie, all the way to the coast in Brazoria County and so forth, we have 11,000 acres. And that's where we're gaining ground because there's some ranches down there that are very sizable. They're along creeks, and we want to be able to protect those water supplies. And we're making very good headway, and we're getting a lot of publicity, and that is helping us. So let's talk just real quickly about what an easement is. Y'all know what an easement is? No. All right. They're voluntary legal real estate agreements, so you have to file them in the courthouse. They're between a landowner and a land trust. And I think I said to you that we, as the Coastal Prairie Conservancy, are a land trust. We have people that take care of these easements. They permanently limit the use of the land to what it has on it at the time of the signature on these documents, and they protect it for its conservation values. So why would people want to do this? Well, because their children don't want to take over farming, or their children don't want the land, they want to sell it to a developer because it brings in a lot of money, but the parents don't want to do that. We want land because it's contiguous space, and contiguous space allows us to grow our prairie and to provide for more diversity in nature. And that's the bonus that we see for it. And so we are out there working with landowners, whether they're giving us their land, whether they're selling us the land, or it's been moved to an easement. Okay, so here's our showroom, Indian Grass Preserve, and also we have the Warren Ranch. Here's a book on the Warren Ranch. Anybody heard of the Warren Ranch? A lot of people have. Okay, Warren Ranch. Mr. Warren came in the 1850s, and by 1865, what was happening in Texas? The war was over, and all of these soldiers were coming back, and to get paid, since the Texas didn't have any money, they were paid in land. Well, Mr. Warren had a very unique idea. He just squatted on the land, and if the landowner, the person that was given the land as a payment for his service in the military, he didn't show up or didn't stay there for 7 years, he just started farming it, and then in 7 years it became his. Today, it's over 6,000 acres. It's the largest ranch in Harris County. It is under operation, and Mr. Warren, his name is Jim, I've met him, interesting character. Several of his family members live there too. And in fact, this picture up here on this really big horse is the brother of the lady that I met yesterday at Hockley. And they have ranch hands over there. We have a ranch manager on our staff, and we have a lot of things going on over at Warren Ranch, including programs. We do hay rides, we do research, we look at the turtles that are rare over there, and there's a 160-acre lake. Interestingly enough, there is a salt dome over there, and you oil barons in the room know that when there's salt, there is oil. So he did discover oil on his property, and I brought in a sample of salt. They're using the salt, they're selling it. If anybody needs it, it's not table salt. It's used for feeding livestock. It's just an interesting place. 12 miles of restored streams along Cypress Creek, and the prairie dawn flower is out there, and we keep an eye on it and count it every year. This is a great book, especially for kids. It tells a great story of the Warren family, and it was just written 5 years ago. And here's again the picture of the land. Here's this big swath of land right here where the lake is. And there's also a Matt Cook wildlife viewing platform now. That's the Warren Ranch. And we have a majority interest in it now. It will come to us when the family passes on. And this over here is the field office that I was telling you about, that we've converted it into a welcome center. And this is Morrison Road, and I'll talk about the cemetery in a second or two. And then you'll see all these brown spaces is what we own, and the other the green spaces are what we own, and the brown spaces are under easement. Okay. And there's a lot of amazing plants and animals, and these are the big four grasses. You know, grasses are not sexy. That's why my message sometimes is hard for people to understand why you should love this. But what I can tell you is when I go out to the prairie and I'm there for the day, my heartbeat has slowed down. I've forgotten where I live. I don't remember what I gotta do when I get home, and I hope it's not too soon. And it to me is psychology. It is healthy, and everybody should have a chance to do it. So it says it right there: flood control, quality of life. We offer nature's burial. We'll talk about it in a minute. How are we doing on time, Susie? Resiliency.
We got 30 minutes.
Oh, that's perfect. I love it. And this word resiliency, when Memorial Park put in a prairie landscape, the birds started coming back. Not only that, but pollinators. When we planted milkweed, all of a sudden we had everything up and down the food chain that takes on milkweed. It's very special, the resiliency of the nature. And there are pocket prairies now in a lot of schools. In your landscaping that you're doing out here, it's getting there. It's not completely there, but it certainly is a nod in the right direction. And I've got a talk here on, or this slide about our outreach programs that we do both in and around Houston and then off on the prairie. You can go out there. It's just a 30-minute drive. Get a carpool, go up there. There's trails to walk. We have a nursery there, and the guy's name, I've forgotten his name. It's either Chris or Norm. I don't know. Anyway, he might let you take a couple of plants home if you help him in the nursery, because what we do is we collect seeds from our pristine prairies, and then we work on getting the seeds out when they're dried, and then we put them into packets, and then we take them up to our nursery, and we put them in 6-inch pots, and then bump them all up. When they got to gallon pots, then we have a putting down roots, and we extend our prairie for 2 acres every year. So we are growing our prairie back by this, but we also will let you have some plants, seeds that we have germinated, and you can take those plants to your house, put them on your porch or whatever, and at the end of the season, when they're root bound and they're ready to go in the ground, you bring them back to the prairie, and we'll put them out on the prairie for you.
Wow.
We would really appreciate that. And that program is called, it doesn't say it on here. I don't remember, but we've been working on that program too. The Great Grow Out. I'm loving it. It's called the Great Grow Out, and we do it as we take these small pots to the schools, and we teach the teachers how to help the kids with it, and they do it in their pocket prairies. So it's pretty cool. So the better we take care of our land, the better it will take care of us. And I firmly believe that that is a mission that will make a difference. Okay, so I'm ready to switch gears a little bit and talk about nature's burial. One of my favorite topics. So, we started this initiative. Where did that big one come? Sue, can you bring that big poster back down here, please? Yes. We set aside 65 acres of owned land on the prairie. Now think about it. When, hold it up. Okay, our burial site is right here. You see where my finger is? Okay. Okay, Susie. Okay, here we are at the Welcome Center. 2 miles south of that on Morrison Road, there's this plot of land, and we now have Blazing Star Sanctuary. 65 acres that has been set aside. And in that, you can put that one down, and you are welcome to look at that when you get up. And Sue, if you could get this one, there's one, bring both of them over. Both of them. Put the other one down.
Yes, ma'am.
Please. Okay. I hold up one, I hold up one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is what the place looks like. It was set aside, it's owned land. So, just think about a cemetery. That's owned by somebody. And if you want to put a plot in there and bury some loved one, then you pay for the right to do that. Well, we happen to own this land, and we want people to consider using this to bury their loved ones. Only difference is we don't want you to do embalming, because that's chemicals. We don't want you to use anything that's not biodegradable, because it won't biodegrade. It'll just be in the land forever. We don't allow grave sites, gravestones. We want anything to be in a natural material. You can wrap your loved one in linen or cotton or wood, but no metal. So this is what it looks like, and I have several slides, but I think this is good to just talk about it. Shouldn't I be just putting this in my
Yes,
pocket?
yes.
Why wasn't I not doing that? Don't answer that. I thought for sure that was my speaker. I love having a speaker. Okay, Sue, come on over here with that, please. Well, yeah, dear. These are grave sites. They're larger than typical burial sites. And then these smaller sites right here are for cremains. And if you want to combine the two and put somebody in and then put a cremains with it, you can do that as well. And we have open houses now. And I've got a couple of dates that I wrote down. I'm going to be at one probably next month, where you can go see what this all looks like and like it or not. Oh, you want me to move?
No, I just had a question. So, like the Vietnam Wall, you can go there and see a name. Is there a name where you can see who's buried there?
It's a GPS-based system where you can find out where you are GPS-wise from a kiosk that's at the burial site, and then that'll take you right to where your loved one is. And there's a marker there, and I'll show you that on these slides. You're good for now, Susie. Thank you. Don't get to. So the Coastal Prairie Conservancy is launching Nature's Burial, a new venture to establish conservation cemeteries serving the Houston metro area. And why a conservation cemetery? It's a win for nature and it's a win for people. Our organization will charge a very nominal fee. I can go over the pricing if you'd like. We're going to put you in the ground, and you can come see it anytime you want. But you're also going to see a prairie. You won't actually see a stone or anything, so you'll know where it is. But we're going to give you packets of flowers and grasses to plant with your person so that they will come back after that person has been buried.
Wow.
Engagement with conservation is a powerful, personal, and lasting way. We have 6 people buried already there, so we are actively showing the property, and everybody that we have that has visited has signed on. Yes.
Can you be buried with your dogs?
No, we do not allow animals because Texas doesn't allow animals. And that's a very common, but we are looking into having a separate area for animals. This is the first, did you all hear me? First conservation cemetery in Texas. And several other states have already gone down this path, but because this is such a win-win for us, we are now in this, I would say, business too, yes. Plot by plot, direct restoration of the land, a sense of ownership, program funding that fully aligns with our mission, and it's a new park for our citizens, wildlife, and plants. Yes, ma'am.
How long do you keep the plots?
They're not going to go away. There will always be your loved one in there. No one will ever be buried around it or in it.
You don't, okay.
It's just like a cemetery that is sacred. Just like the Native Americans, their cemeteries were sacred. Once you get in the ground, you will not be disturbed. Okay?
Well, they do that in other places, like New Orleans.
No, we don't. Oh,
That's why I was
true. But no, we do not allow that.
Okay.
We do not allow that. So this is an example of a wicker basket coffin that you can use. We have arrangements with most every funeral home that you go to understands this concept, and if you ask to be buried in this way, they will honor your wishes. They will not embalm you. They will provide you with alternatives of how, and if you want to be cremated, then they would take care of it so that the ashes could be poured into the ground, or they give you a box that's wood that you get put in, or some version of it. And if you want to put in a person, and you wanna put in cremains together, that's 1,500. I'm sorry, it's 50, sorry, let's start again. There's a sale on right now. And you laugh, but it sounds really crazy, and it's all on the website. But right now, it's $4,000 for a burial. Let me look at my notes, because I got this wrong the last time. And then it's $1,500 for cremains. These are larger plots than you would see, and not as deep as you would see at traditional cemeteries, because we're taking the land and giving it a new purpose. And we've got plenty of land, so we're getting started. And if you wanted to combine cremains with a burial plot, that's $1,500 extra. Okay, green burial is a way of caring for the dead with minimal environmental impact that aids in the conservation of natural resources, reduction of carbon emissions, protection of worker health, and the restoration and or preservation of the habitat. We are seeing so many birds coming out to this particular spot, and it's called Blazing Star Sanctuary because we saw the blazing star flower very prominent on this particular piece of land, and so it made sense to name it after that. If you want a little bit of history, how am I doing, Susie, on time?
15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Lincoln's responsible for embalming because he wanted to be buried in Illinois. They couldn't figure out how to get him there without doing something. Embalming was created or invented, and they re-embalmed him 3 times on the way to his grave in Illinois. But it became the way that the men that died on the battlefield during the Civil War could be brought to their homes where they traditionally would have gone to be buried. And so the United States, ever since, has been in the embalming business. And it's not healthy for the environment. Okay. It's a natural burial that serves a higher significance. I think we covered all of this. Blazing star, natural burial ground. Okay.
Is there a question?
Yes.
I thought you were waiting on it.
All right. I'm kind of done with this. You can see that this has got wetlands already there. We dredged out some space, and the water's already filled in nicely. There's a parking lot down here. There's a gate. It's closed. You have to make an appointment to come see it, but like I said, we have open houses. And this is a tree line here. So, any questions on
Is that part of the Mary Manor property?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. She asked if this is part of the Mary Manor acreage, and the answer is yeah. Other questions? Yes.
So I just want to understand the green burial thing.
Uh-huh.
So, I die here at Eagles Trace.
Yes.
My son takes me to a funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
I get cremated, and then my son contacts you, or he takes the remains, my ashes, to you, contacts you.
You
out
should,
there?
if you decide that you want to have your remains buried on the prairie, we have a place for you. You come out, you talk to us, we give you a tour, and if you decide that you want to do this, then the $4,000 will provide you with a space to put your body.
But that's my body, but what if I just have the ashes?
If you have ashes, you'll be charged $1,500, and we'll put you in the ground as ashes. So, and everybody that's come out for a tour was already interested in doing this, and they all signed up. Not that I'm trying to promote it, but that's what I heard, yeah.
So do you have a regular graveside service, like your
We have
minister?
grave diggers, and we have staff,
Uh-huh.
and We have outreach like me. And we have a welcome center if you would like to reserve it for a service as part of your burial. And things like, let's say that you died on a trip to Tahiti. That $4,000 wouldn't bury you, but the funeral home would take care of getting your body to the grave site. If you went to a funeral home with your body and your body was taken there, you would said, I'm doing green burial or I'm doing conservation cemetery, and they would honor your wishes and they would give you options for what you want to do to wrap that body up or to put those ashes in, and then they will see to it that it gets transported to the grave at the appropriate time.
But can you have a graveside service there like you would a normal burial?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. I don't know, I've not had that question, so I think that's fine. Yeah. Other questions? I have things that I wanted to say. I'm looking through my notes. One of the things that I read about early on was when horses were leaving Houston, following the Buffalo Bayou or other creeks and streams, and heading west on horseback. The tall grass was so high that number one, you couldn't see them anymore, and number two, they got lost all the time, and it really was very muddy and very wet, and so they sometimes got bogged down in a bog. But they were on the prairie, and it's soil, not rock, so nothing was gonna save them. But I thought those stories were really cool. This quote was good. If he will cast his eyes from Buffalo Bayou to the Sabine River, which is our border with Louisiana, he will discover the extended plain only diversified by the sight of timbers as he crosses the San Jacinto, Trinity, and Neches rivers. Why? Because that's the only place where trees will be growing. And just as we don't plant trees unless they're small shrubs and that sort of a thing. Okay, yes?
Why don't trees grow on the prairie?
They do, but they don't survive because they are not a prairie grass. They die out, just like what happened during our 5-year drought in Memorial Park. About 80% of the trees died because they were planted and they didn't like where they were, and the next storm that came up, they blew them over. Yes?
And part of your restoration, are you putting in any rice fields back in?
Oh, that's a really cool, we're in the rice business. And 40 years of Katy, in the 1940s to the 1980s, those silos that you see down in downtown Katy, and you also see the pictures of the snow geese, the statues there, were for rice. And what we're discovering is since there's fewer and fewer people farming anymore, that means there's less food for our birds that are migrating. And what percentage of our birds migrate? About 80%. So the whooping cranes come through here. The Sandhill Cranes come through. The snow geese. What are my other ones? The ducks. Yeah, the mottled ducks. These all need food. And we were discovering that the numbers were going down. We went from 1 million snow geese down to 200,000 because they don't have the food. Unlike some states like Nebraska, they really nurture the ground and the grasses and the food. Like in Nebraska, that's the whole damn state is corn. And so that's why they have these layovers for all these birds. So when you ask about rice, the coolest thing is we do farming on our own land using a farm manager. And today I can say that we are negotiating with HEB to sell our rice at their store in Katy. How about that for them? And rice farming is the most expensive kind of crop that you can grow because it requires flat land and irrigation. And the reason why we have stepped back from farming most of the places where people own land is because their pipes and stuff are underground and they're rotting away. And to replace them, they're having to dig a deeper well. It's more expensive. So as we get property where rice has been growing before, we get on that bandwagon and we help out not only HEB's grocery people, but we also are helping the birds. Yes.
Do they still have honey on some of the?
Absolutely. We support hunters because hunters are the most conservation-minded people we can find. They know how to protect the land because hunters are all managed by Texas Parks and Wildlife, and we are a very huge partner to Texas Parks and Wildlife in what we do and what we don't do. Yes, sir.
Well, the reason I asked the question, I remember the first time we lived in Houston in the 90s, the snow geese up around Warren Ranch and Blackwood.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Yes.
So, but
Yeah.
now they're not out there.
No, they are not. It's a very sad picture. And I just brought this back up. The other thing that I was going to point out here, look at all these streams and creeks that are coming through this property, all by themselves. It's all flat land. But if it's not stopped because of the grasses and things, it will find its way downstream and flood the city. So, not that this is going to prevent it completely, but it's all part of the plan. I think we're getting more and more people to get on the bandwagon for what they can protect. Another question over here? Yes?
I recall visiting a place for prairie chickens.
Yes, Atwater Prairie Chicken Preserve. Yeah, it's about an hour west of here. It's only open certain times of the year because they're down to nothing in terms of numbers. And we have discovered some prairie chickens out in the Texas City area, and we're keeping an eye on them too. It's by invitation only for the most part, unless they have their open days when they give you tours.
What is the relationship of that project to your project? Is it like yours?
Well, we don't have prairie chickens because they're endangered to the point where, what is it?
Atwater is a national wildlife preserve.
It's a national wildlife preserve, and there are, what is it, a handful left in the whole?
Of the prairie chickens?
Uh-huh.
I'm not certain of the population.
Okay. Yeah, not certain of the population, but it's dwindling for sure.
And there was a time when the railroads were being built, there were so many prairie chickens, that's what the railroad wanted to feed the workers. And the workers had it in their contract that they could not be served prairie chickens every night for dinner.
Repeat that.
Prairie chickens.
If you didn't hear her, she said that the railroad workers, they were surrounded by prairie chickens when they were building the railroad, and they could not, they wanted to eat them every day. It just tastes like chicken. Yeah, but they decimated the population, not to mention the feathers. Yes?
In area, approximately what size are the burials?
Bigger than anything that will be in the normal. And I've got the dimensions on one of these slides. If you come up afterwards, I'll give you the dimensions. Yeah, but it's bigger. Yeah, because we could. We're in the land business. Yeah.
I'm assuming nobody here is from Katy.
From Katy?
Katy.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is I have a friend that I worked with, and her grandfather owned that property where the reservoir is now, and had to sell it off to the government to build the reservoir. But she grew up riding her pony in Barker Cypress, and that whole, it's all changed so much now. If she was here, she would be able to eyewitness a lot of stuff that's changed.
Yeah,
just since the sixties, the fifties.
but if you,
And they were the Marks family.
right, and that's why we want to have a place for you to come that will never not be here for you and your children, and grandchildren, and in some cases, great-grandchildren. Because it's the heritage that we, and you know, it's funny when you think about Texas, you know, land's everything to us. You know, it's almost all of it's private land, but it sure does seem sometimes that we don't take care of it. So, thank you very much. Oh, yes.
It's just a reminder, if your best friend's having a birthday and you have no idea what to give them, make a donation to the Conservancy.
Yes, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Harriet. She did that for me. If you'd like to make a donation, I have these cards up here that you can use and just put it in the mail, but also you can just go over to the website. It's a long name. It's on here, Coastal Prairie Conservancy.org, and you'll see a donate button there. So we could use all the help we can get. Anything else? Yes.
Just, let folks know that generally in February, I think you start in January, you can go out. They'll have days, evenings when you can go out and visit and hopefully hear the cranes.
Well, that's what I was in. That was where I started with, yes. And they have them at the end of January and all of February. And it's a magical experience, and we do it every year. And they sell out really fast.
It's called.
Okay, thank you very much. Vote for me for a little bit. I do love to talk about them.